shorten this up quite a bit.
Okay.
This is a project that came in the new Bella box, but it's also the same projects that are on the CD that I tucked back in
Yeah,
the
somewhere back
collage
there. Okay.
pillows. So they introduced the concept in the Bella box, and then they came out with a new CD. And I want to show how they have you do it, and then I want to give you an idea on how you might consider doing it.
Is this going back to embroidery?
We're pretty short on time, so we'll probably just talk about it.
Okay. Then I won't.
Sorry.
I won't put the foot on.
Here's what they do, okay? I actually kept it in my hoop and everything in case you wanted to go in. This particular item has two different pieces to it. It has a flower, and it has two leaves, actually three, and then some words. What I did is I did the leaves their way, so I can explain it to you, and then I'm going to show you how I would prefer to do the flowers. While this is in the sewing machine, embroidery machine, the first thing it does, there's no topper on it at all, is it gives you the outline stitches for where your leaves are going to be. Now the collage technique, it's really kind of cool, has you take and back your fabrics with a double-sided sticky. Like you could use Misty Fuse, or you could use Seam to Seam Light, or there's many projects out there.
Decabond?
No,
Not Decabond.
light. Pelon.
Wonder Under.
Yeah, make sure it's the light mold, sewable one. Holy moly. So then you stick all these things, and then you basically, like for the leaves, you take a bunch of greens, and you just cut them out every which way. They want you to make sure they have soft angles and curves, so that when it's done, and you just place all your stuff down here, it kind of looks natural. If you end up with a sharp edge, though, it's real easy, just take it outside, because you're going to end up having to trim this. The reason there's topper on it, as you can imagine, you can't press this on here. You lay all these little pieces down, and then you're supposed to take it to your machine and sew them. Well, they're not going to stay in place. And you can't effectively tape them. So you take a piece of water-soluble topping, and you put that over all your little pieces, and put it on the machine, and then it tacks it down. Then after this part, you remove this.
I could have sewn it. We're all set up.
No. The sewing is the next step.
Oh, you
I
already
wanted to
sewn
show.
it?
No.
Well, you did, because you have all these little things
Well,
here.
what
is
you
I'm
have to
saying.
do, though, after you, I went to my tape. After you get this stuff off, you then take your scissors and you trim it.
Yeah, like regular applique.
Right. See, and if I had adhered this down, I wouldn't be able to
That'd be
trim
a
it.
mess.
You can't get it up again. You can't.
That's what she said.
You can't trim it.
You can't get it up again, even if you have some Niagara?
No, you can't. It's on there for good. So see how these pop up because they haven't been ironed down yet?
Yeah.
See? See that? I can't iron them down until I trim off all this extra stuff. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you kidding me? No, there's a better way. Plus, the way I'm going to show you, this all of a sudden becomes useful for any applique, for those people who do not have embroidery machines, but who love to do applique, and they, sew around with their blanket stitches or whatnot.
I did that once, and I'm like, I don't
Oh,
like
I love applique.
I don't like applique
I
anymore.
absolutely love applique. So this technique brings this.
And I'm going to date myself. The one I did it on, it was the Bear Paw Table Runner from Thimbleberries.
Okay, so this technique of creating this stuff is going to work for any applique project. I am not going to need an embroidery machine.
How am I supposed to sell embroidery machines if you're not going to
Well,
teach them how to
and
use
if I
it?
have an embroidery machine, I'm still going to do it this way.
And if you come by an
I-
NQ 1600E, you can
I
do
picked
this.
out the printed out the patent for free within Brilliance.
Okay.
Okay, this is a Teflon sheet, a well-loved Teflon sheet. It's going over my patent. I don't know if on camera you can see the flower underneath it. Can you see it?
A little bit.
Okay, I can see it fine and dandy. If you're having trouble seeing it, you could use a light table too to go up through it. But you can see it, right, Brett?
Yes, and you can see it from the camera as well.
Okay, good. So now imagine.
We, senora.
Now imagine I'm just building my fabric for my flower right here. We won't have time to do the whole thing, but I want to show you some of it. Scissors, Becky, what'd you do with your scissors? I brought
Will
2
those
pairs,
work?
so you can trim some up too.
Oh, I'm just gonna cut weird things?
Yeah, now, a tip I have is don't try and cut this whole thing, like, I know I want little pieces, so I hack it up square first.
It does, and you're saying no
And then-
sharp angles?
You don't really want any sharp angles, you just want to make them all like every which way. This is the fun part, this is the Adriana part. Then you're going to take the paper off, hopefully. That's the worst part for me. And you're going to build your flower out here. And I'm just going to make sure my edges go over my petals. Now, that's a sharp, very sharp angle.
Well, that's because that was the edge.
Well, that's, no, I can't have that.
Okay.
So what you do is, yeah, it's kind of, you know what, I really liked this. I got to be honest with you. I thought at first I was going to be like, what? And then when you start playing, I'm thinking, especially if you're doing flowers and stuff, it's really a lot of fun. And it makes it very different. Okay, we'll do a few more, then I'm going to show you. Why are you people laughing?
None of your business.
It's probably not appropriate for young people.
That's what she said.
Okay, let's put a few more and then I'm going to show you the magic, because I know we're getting late. Now, the beauty of this,
So you're just putting it on the paper over where the lines are at? You
yeah, I'm
understand that?
making sure it's big enough that it's going to cover my petal. my flower.
I'm seeing where you're going with this. This is kind of interesting. And then you're just gonna iron it, and the Teflon keeps it from sticking to the Teflon.
But sticks my pieces together. So now when I go to my machine, I'm not using any top ribbon. I'm not using any tape. Whoops.
So you would just use
And you're
regular,
supposed to wait till it cools. So I'm picking it off hot. I'm not supposed to do that.
picking it off hot.
I'm picking
That's
it off.
what she said.
But now look what I got. I got a piece of fabric instead of.
Is Wendell home tonight? Okay,
I got a piece of fabric instead of 3,000 little pieces of fabric.
yes.
So when it then on
I'm seeing it, yeah.
when it then does the
The placement stitch?
placement stitch, I'm now putting one piece down,
Yeah,
just like it's one piece of fabric.
yeah, and then you would just trim it out and call it good.
Yep. Now, if I'm doing it without my embroidery machine, I also magically could use wax paper, put this on my wax paper, and trim out my entire flower.
Oh, I like that idea.
Oh, yeah.
See, I do the Teflon, but that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. Well, I'd still stick it together with
Right.
the Teflon. I'd still make my,
Oh, you're
I'm
right.
making my fabric. I'm basically making my,
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't know, you really have to look though.
it's a snail. It's a snail.
Yeah.
That's what I see, a little snail in a shell. It's a flower. Okay, but can you see, you're basically making your own fabric.
Yeah,
The sky's the limits now. Think about how many projects you can
That's kinda
take
cool, yeah.
this concept to. How many people make trees, right? An elaborate applique thing. I
Well, you
just
could
was
make like
like,
your own, you could make like a really simple applique design and really make it cool with just making the fabric in the
that
middle.
bag that I keep forgetting to bring the patent in for Lynn, if I had known how to do this, I would have done that on that bag. Instead of just doing plain flowers, I would have made them really cool. Yeah. So anyway, make your fabric before you go to the machine, and then you don't need topper, and then you don't need,
And that was one of the timber bell box designs.
this is a Bello Box design. It's very pretty, but the whole CD of collages tells you to put them all down on here, and then put topper on.
So you could, if you're gonna use the same kind of colors and fabrics in the collage, you could just make a giant piece
You can.
and then just kind of cut it, put it on there, cut it out. and then-
Basically, I'm
Okay.
telling you, make your fabric. Make your own fabric, then go for
Then
it.
after the placement stitch, throw
Yeah.
that on, tack it down, trims it, yeah.
And
okay.
it's so much easier than doing it on this little,
Well, then,
yeah. I did the leaves the way they told me, and I'm telling you. Now I still have to trim them before I can even stick them down. Look at
and then
what,
you gotta hit them with an iron. And then if you have like polyester batting and they're just gonna flatten it and ruin it.
Right, see that, I like this so much better. And I could have cut my leaves out completely, you know, I could
You
have.
could make this
Could have made my
and then
leaves
put
on
it
wax
through
paper.
your cutter, and then it would be already pre-cut for you.
Actually, you could put this through the cutter quite easily. The cutter
Yep.
would do this too, yeah.
We just complicated it beyond.
No, but the theory is build
Yeah.
it here and then use it
As a
there.
fabric, yeah,
It's so
makes
much
sense.
more
And they
fun.
will come.
Yeah, it's so much more fun, frankly.
It's actually
But-
the coolest
okay,
building
so that
you
was
will
that.
find.
So all you Kimberbell lovers, but all you applique lovers.
Yeah, that's actually really-
This is
that's
a cool
really neat.
trick for applique.
For any applique, yeah.
period,